The Robber Bridegroom. Once there was a kind miller who had a lovely daughter. She was all grown up, and the miller hoped she would find a good husband who would take care of her. He thought, if a nice man asks to marry her, I will say yes. Soon, a man came to visit. He seemed very rich, and the miller couldn't see anything wrong with him, so he agreed that his daughter could marry him. But the daughter didn't feel happy about this man. She felt unsure about him, a little bit worried deep inside, though she couldn't say why. She didn't feel like she could trust him. One day, the man said to her, "You haven't visited my home yet, even though we are planning to be married." "I don't know where your house is," she answered. "My house is deep in the woods," he said. She tried to make an excuse. "Oh, I don't think I could find the way there," she said. But the man replied, "You must come visit me next Sunday. I have already invited guests for that day, so you don't get lost. I will sprinkle ashes along the path to show you the way." When Sunday came, the girl felt a little scared, but she didn't know why. To make sure she could find her way back home, she filled her pockets with peas and lentils. She planned to drop them on the ground as she walked. When she reached the edge of the woods, she saw the path marked with ashes. She followed it, dropping a few peas and lentils to her left and right with every few steps. She walked all day long. Finally, she reached the deepest, quietest part of the woods. There stood a lonely house. It looked a bit strange and gloomy, and she didn't like the look of it much. She carefully stepped inside. No one was there. It was completely silent. Suddenly, a little voice chirped, go back, young lady bright. This lonely house is not quite right." The girl looked up. The voice came from a bird in a cage hanging on the wall. Again, the bird sang, go back, young lady bright. This lonely house is not quite right." The girl kept going, walking carefully from room to room. All the rooms were empty. She still hadn't seen anyone. At last, she went down some stairs to the cellar. There sat a very, very old woman with a kind face, nodding her head gently. "Can you please tell me," asked the girl, "if the man I am supposed to marry lives here?" "Dear child," answered the old woman softly, "you've wandered into a secret place. This is a hideout for tricky folks. You think you are here to plan a wedding, but they are not kind people. They plan to trick you and take things that aren't theirs. Look, do you see this big pot of soup I have to keep warm? These fellows only care about themselves. If I don't help you hide, they might try to keep you here." Then, the kind old woman led her behind a very large barrel where she couldn't be seen. "Stay as still as a mouse," she whispered. "Don't make a sound or they will find you. Tonight, when the tricky fellows are asleep, we will sneak away together. I have been waiting a long time for a chance to leave this place." She had barely finished speaking when the noisy group returned. They weren't carrying anyone. Instead, they were dragging big sacks filled with shiny plates, cups, and other fancy things they had sneakily taken from nearby towns. They were laughing and talking loudly about their treasures. They paid no attention to anything else. The leader of the group, the man the girl was supposed to marry, puffed out his chest. "We are so clever," he bragged, showing off a fancy vest he wore. As he did, a big, shiny button with a special pattern popped right off his vest. It bounced across the floor and rolled right behind the big barrel where the girl was hiding. The old woman quickly nudged it closer to the girl with her foot. One of the other men noticed the leader's missing button. "Hey, you lost a button," he said. The leader looked down. "Oh, bother," he grumbled, and started looking around near his feet. "Don't worry about it now," called the old woman from the corner. "Come and have your supper while it's hot. You can look for the button tomorrow. It won't run away." "The old woman is right," said the tricky fellows. They stopped looking and sat down to eat their soup and bread. The poor girl stayed hidden behind the barrel, her heart beating fast. She understood now what kind of man her father had chosen for her. After supper, the old woman gave them all warm milk with honey. Soon, tired from their busy day, the whole group was fast asleep, snoring loudly in their chairs and on benches. As soon as the girl heard the snoring, she knew it was safe. She carefully crept out from behind the barrel. She had to step very quietly past the sleeping men. She worried they might wake up, but thankfully, she tiptoed past them all without a sound. The old woman was waiting by the cellar stairs. Together, they went upstairs, unlocked the door, and hurried out of the house as fast as they could. Outside, the wind had blown away all the ashes, but the peas and lentils the girl had dropped had started to sprout. Tiny green shoots poked up from the ground, shining in the moonlight. These little sprouts showed them the path home. They walked all night long, and just as the sun was rising, they reached the miller's house. The girl ran inside and told her father everything that had happened. The day that was supposed to be the wedding arrived. The rich man came, looking pleased with himself. The miller had also invited all his friends and family, so the house was full of guests. Everyone sat down for a big meal. To entertain everyone, the guests started telling stories, but the bride sat quietly and didn't say a word. "And you, my dear?" said the rich man, turning to her with a smile. "Don't you know any stories? Tell us something." "I will tell you about a dream I had," said the bride. "In my dream, I walked alone through a forest until I came to a lonely house. There was no one inside, but a bird in a cage on the wall sang, 'Go back, young lady bright. This lonely house is not quite right.' And it sang the same words again. 'My darling, that is only a dream,' said the man, but he shifted in his chair. In my dream, the bride continued, I walked through the house, room by room. They were all empty and felt very strange. Finally, I went down to the cellar. There sat a very, very kind old woman, nodding her head. I asked her if the man I was to marry lived there. She whispered, "Ah, dear child, you have come to a secret hideout for tricky fellows. The man you met does live here, but he and his friends plan to trick you." "My darling, it was only a dream," the man said again. He started to look a little worried. "The kind old woman hid me behind a big barrel," the bride went on. Soon, the tricky fellows came back, dragging big sacks full of shiny things they had sneakily taken. Their leader bragged about how clever they were. "Just a dream, my love, just a dream," the man insisted, his voice a little shaky. And as he bragged, the bride said, her voice clear and strong, a big shiny button with a special pattern popped right off his vest and rolled behind the barrel, right to where I was hiding. "And here," she said, holding up the object for everyone to see, "is the button." She held up the shiny, special button. A man who was supposed to be her husband turned very pale. He jumped up from his chair and tried to run away. But the guests were surprised and quickly stood up, blocking his way. The miller looked sadly at the man. "You pretended to be someone good," the miller said firmly. "But you are a trickster. You are not welcome here." The guests all murmured in agreement. "You and your friends must leave this village right now and never, ever come back." The tricky man and his band, who had been waiting outside, heard the commotion. Seeing they were discovered, they hurried away looking ashamed. They were never seen near the mill or the village again. The miller's daughter was safe, and everyone celebrated her cleverness and bravery. The kind old woman from the cellar came to live at the mill, and they were all happy that the tricky plan had been stopped.